What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be taking a deep look at the pistols in the game at launch for Black Ops 7, just to see what the strengths and weaknesses are of each of these so you guys can decide which one is best for you. Now if you guys are interested, I've already done videos exactly like this for SMGs and assault rifles. I will leave both of those linked down below, but without further ado, let's dive right into this one with our range and time to kill comparison. And as you can see, the Jaeger 45 has a pretty solid 4-shot kill range to the body at about 27 meters. And with a 4-shot kill, the time to kill potential is not terrible, but not great either. It's 300 milliseconds. It can typically hold its own just fine against many of the primaries in the game, but only if you have a good trigger finger, because this is a fairly high fire rate semi-auto. It has a 600 round per minute fire rate cap by default. And so in order to get that 300 millisecond time to kill, you really have to have a solid trigger finger. Then taking a look at the Velix 5.7, this one has a roughly 20 meter 4-shot kill range. And keep in mind, this one is a 3-round burst. And while previously, for the first week of the game, we had a 1-burst kill potential right up close and personal to the body, now you need to mix a headshot in with 2 body shots if you want to get that 3-shot kill right up close. So it's still possible, it's just a lot less forgiving than it used to be. And that time to kill potential with a 4-shot kill is pretty bad actually, at 354 milliseconds. So using this as a primary weapon is putting yourself at a pretty big disadvantage, even if you're playing your ranges properly. That is, of course, unless you're able to consistently land that headshot right up close. And then finally, we have the Coda 9, which is a full auto pistol. And with this one, we have a fairly short 5-shot kill range at about 9.5 meters. Although within that short range, we get a really solid time to kill potential at 256 milliseconds. That's actually quite competitive with SMGs in this game. But then we do see a pretty steep drop off in its power potential beyond that very close range. The next damage range extends out to 14 meters. And that's where we're still at least moderately competitive time to kill wise. But again, it's not really a great time to kill. And then after that, we're just killing really slow compared to everything else. So you really don't want to get into a gunfight beyond 14 meters with this gun. But if you do keep yourself within that range, it's actually got quite a bit of potential. Next, let's have a look at our recoil comparison between these. And realistically, putting these side by side doesn't really mean a lot because they're just inherently different types of guns. I mean, one's semi-auto, one's burst, and one's full auto, but let's take a look at it anyway. And when it comes to all of these, there is very little horizontal recoil, which is nice to see. They pretty much just kick straight upward with maybe just the slightest lean to the right in the case of the Jaeger and the Velix 5.7. The Coda has essentially 0 horizontal recoil though. And overall, especially within the ranges where you should be using these pistols, they're all very accurate and easy to control. Obviously, if you try stretching your range out with them, you might struggle a bit, but you're going to struggle with time to kill as well. So they're really just designed to be used right up close or for finishing off a kill perhaps at a bit of a distance. Then another thing to look at here is just our average hipfire spreads relative to the other weapon categories in the game. And obviously the pistols excel in this area. They're actually quite noticeably better than SMGs, which is nice to see. And if you're right up close and personal, especially with like the full auto, like the Coda, hipfire is actually pretty solid. Then after that, for these pistols specifically, I think it's important to look at like magazine capacity and reload and swap time. So here they are. As you can see, the Jaeger 45 by default has a 10-round magazine, the Velix 5.7 is a 15-round magazine, and the Coda 9 has a 20-round magazine. And they all reload quite quickly, like even the Coda 9 being the slowest at 1.5 seconds, that's still a very fast reload time for the game if you compare it to like any of the primary weapons. And importantly with pistols, I wanted to take a look at the swap time. How long does it take to pull these out? And keep in mind, I measured this from the moment I pressed the button to swap weapons from an M15, just to keep things nice and controlled here. I measured from that moment until the moment the gun fires a shot. Like I'm spamming the fire button as I'm in the process of swapping. And this is one area where the Jaeger 45 does have a notable advantage over the other two. We can get that shot off about 75 milliseconds faster, and 75 milliseconds in the middle of a gunfight, that can absolutely be the deciding factor. In either case, let's now move on to our handling stats, and unsurprisingly, across the board, these guns really excel when it comes to handling. They have excellent aim down sight speed, sprint out time, slide to fire, dive to fire times. These are all very good relative to the primary weapons in the game. But out of all of them, the Jaeger 45 is going to be the fastest in all of these areas. And that same trend carries through with our movement speeds. Of course, all of these are great in the movement speed department. However, the Jaeger 45 does come out on top here in every one of these areas by at least just a little bit. It's not like significantly faster or anything, but it is slightly faster than the others. And there we have it. Those are the important stats of the base pistols, at least. Of course, we are going to be diving into much more detail with like prestige attachments and stuff when I get into the individual gun guides, which should be starting really soon here. I'm just getting the first episode really nailed down, and once I do that, then I'll be blasting through them very efficiently this year. At least that's the plan. But overall, when it comes to my thoughts on these pistols, first off, I've got to say, while I was disappointed to see only 3 pistols at launch, one thing I do like is there's at least a lot of variety with those 3 pistols. Like, we've got one of each. We've got a semi-auto, we've got a burst, and we've got a full auto. And that's more interesting than having like 5 semi-autos that have like slightly different rate of fire potentials and damages. So I do appreciate that, but I really hope we see some new pistols added to the game post-launch fairly soon, like sooner rather than later. And I think there's one style of pistol in particular here that I'm really missing out on, and that is a high damage, slow fire rate semi-auto. Something that has a 3-shot kill potential, but you're not going to be able to spam it quite as heavily. I think that would really help round out the pistol category just that little bit more in its current state, but time will have to tell when it comes to that. Overall, when it comes to these pistols, I think they really have done quite a good job balancing these 3 pistols with each other. They each feel very unique, and I genuinely feel happy using any of these. And honestly, I can even use these as primary weapons. And of course, it'll be a bit of a challenge to do that. Like, I'm not going to be as effective as if I were using a primary weapon. But if you play it right, these pistols can actually be used as primary weapons. And I find that to be a lot of fun. I really do enjoy that. Overall, if I had to pick just one as my like go-to secondary weapon, it's going to be the Jaeger 45. That's largely because I have a good trigger finger. I like using semi-auto pistols. And it's got those advantages when it comes to like mobility and swap speed, and I feel very comfortable using it as a primary weapon as well, so it's nice to have as a backup. Now, of course, those are just my thoughts, and I'd love to hear from you guys in those comments down below. What is your favorite pistol to use so far in Black Ops 7's multiplayer? If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.